Late one stormy night, I sat alone in my dimly lit apartment. The only sound was the relentless patter of rain against the window. The city's orange glow cast eerie shadows across the room, flickering with each flash of lightning. I stared at the screen in front of me, monitoring the security cameras I had installed around my building after a recent string of break-ins in the neighborhood. The feed was grainy, but I could make out the familiar shapes of parked cars, empty sidewalks, and the occasional stray cat darting for cover from the rain. My attention drifted, and I nearly missed it. The dark figure moving stealthily in the shadows. I leaned closer, my breath catching in my throat. The figure wore a long coat, drenched from the rain, and a hood that obscured their face. They moved with an eerie purpose, not the aimless wandering of someone caught in a storm. I switched to the camera at the building's entrance, my heart pounding. There they were, standing just outside the door. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. My eyes never left the screen. The figure seemed to sense the camera, tilting their head slowly up to look directly into the lens. The sightless, shadowed face seemed to bore into my soul. 911. What's your emergency? The operator's voice crackled through the phone. There's someone outside my building. I whispered, my voice barely audible. They're just standing there, watching. I heard a rustling sound over the line, then a sharp click. I'm coming for you next, a voice hissed, low and menacing. My blood turned to ice. Hello, hello, I shouted into the phone, but the line was dead. The figure was gone from the screen. Panic gripped me as I scrambled to check the other camera feeds. Nothing. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. I glanced around my apartment. Every shadow now a potential hiding place. A loud thud echoed from the hallway outside my door, followed by the slow, deliberate creak of floorboards. Someone was inside the building. My breath came in shallow gasps as I clutched the phone, knowing it was useless, but unable to let it go. I grabbed the nearest heavy object, a lamp, and crept toward the door, every step feeling like it took an eternity. Another thud, closer this time. I pressed my ear to the door, straining to hear over the hammering of my heart. The doorknob rattled, and I nearly screamed. I backed away, eyes darting around the room for any escape. The windows were too high, and I was on the 3rd floor. There was no way out. The door burst open, and the figure stood there, silhouetted by the hallway light. They stepped inside, closing the door behind them with a soft click. The hood fell back, revealing a mask, white, expressionless, with hollow eyes that seemed to see right through me. I raised the lamp, my hand trembling. Stay back, I shouted, but my voice wavered. The figure took another step forward, their gloved hands reaching out. I'm here, they whispered. The voice the same as the one on the phone. I swung the lamp, but they were fast, impossibly fast. They grabbed my wrist, twisting it until I cried out in pain and dropped the lamp. I fell to the floor, scrambling backward, but they loomed over me, a predator toying with its prey. Why? I managed to choke out, tears streaming down my face. The figure knelt, their face inches from mine. Because I can, they said, the words dripping with malice. Everything went black as they brought their fist down. The last thing I heard was their chilling laugh, echoing in my mind as darkness consumed me. Part 2. When I woke up, the world was spinning. My head throbbed, and it took a few moments for my eyes to adjust to the dim light. I was no longer in my apartment. Instead, I was lying on a cold, damp floor in what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse. The sound of rain was still present, but now it echoed through the vast, empty space, giving it an even more eerie feel. I tried to move, but my hands were tied behind my back, and my legs were bound together. Panic surged through me as I struggled against the restraints. The more I struggled, the tighter they seemed to become. I needed to stay calm and think. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed something glinting in the corner of the room. A small, rusted knife lay partially covered by debris. It wasn't much, but it was my only chance. I began inching my way towards it, the rough floor scraping against my skin. Every movement was agony, but I forced myself to keep going. Minutes felt like hours. But finally, I reached the knife. I twisted my body, trying to grasp it with my bound hands. The rough rope cut into my skin. But I didn't care. I had to get free. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed through the warehouse, and I froze. Footsteps. The masked figure was back. I hurriedly worked at the ropes, feeling them start to give. Just a little more time. The figure approached, their steps slow and deliberate. I could feel their eyes on me, watching, waiting. Finally, the ropes fell away, and I grasped the knife, hiding it behind my back as I prepared for whatever was coming next. Did you really think you could escape? The figure's voice was cold, almost amused. They took another step forward, and I sprang into action, lunging at them with the knife. The element of surprise worked in my favor, and I managed to slash at their arm, drawing blood. The figure screamed, a guttural, enraged sound, and staggered back. I took the chance to run, my legs still shaky but fueled by adrenaline. I darted through the maze of old machinery, desperately searching for an exit. I could hear the figure behind me, their footsteps growing louder. I rounded a corner and spotted a door, slightly ajar. My heart leapt with hope. I pushed myself harder, sprinting towards the exit. Just as I reached the door, a hand grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around. The masked figure's eyes were wild with fury, and they threw me to the ground. The knife slipped from my grasp, skidding across the floor. "You're not going anywhere," they growled. But I wasn't giving up. I kicked at their legs, knocking them off balance. I scrambled for the knife, fingers brushing against the cold metal. With a final burst of strength, I grabbed the knife and plunged it into the figure's side. They gasped, eyes wide with shock and pain, and collapsed beside me. I didn't wait to see if they were dead. I staggered to my feet and ran through the door, into the pouring rain. I didn't stop running until I was sure I was far enough away. The city streets were empty, and I collapsed against a wall, gasping for breath. I knew I had to get help, but I was safe. For now. I pulled out my phone, which miraculously had survived the ordeal, and dialed 911 once more. This time, I was determined to see this nightmare end. As I waited for the police, I looked back towards the warehouse. The nightmare was over, but the memory of that masked figure's chilling laugh would haunt me forever. The sound of sirens grew louder, and I knew help was finally on the way. The ordeal had left me scarred, but I was alive, and I was determined to never let this happen to anyone else.
Y'all send us your story. Don't worry about it being perfect. We'll do our darndest to make it shine. We've got some of the best storytellers around who can add all the fixins and make your tale come alive. Whether it's a true story or something you cooked up, we'd love to hear from you and share it with folks. So go on and shoot us an email. Come on over to Nightlight Tale, where stories come alive. Subscribe and cozy up for a night full of random tales and that good old storytelling magic. Whether you're hankering for thrillers, horror, comedy, romance, fantasy, or something else, we've got a heap of tales just right for gatherings, sleepovers, car rides, or sitting around the campfire at night. So sit back and enjoy a mix of eerie, thrilling, and sometimes downright funny stories that'll bring the magic of storytelling to life.